Here are the best and the worst heroes that you can play in Deadlock's newest patch that dropped on September 29th. Sorted into tiers. Let's just get into it. So starting off in the D tier, we don't really have an F tier. We have McGinnis. McGinnis was recently significantly buffed. She is more viable with her better walls, the spirit scaling with heal, and we'll be seeing a surge of gun McGinnises lately, specifically for rotating and for split pushing or just taking down the jungle really fast. She is really fun to play, but very clunky. She doesn't have too much movement abilities or self-peel. If she gets focused, she practically dies unless you're really far ahead. I want to give her some points for some of the macro things you can do. For example, a McGinnis, no matter what build you have, can take the mid boss, but in most cases, she is just kind of useless when compared to other heroes on the roster. So again, she goes into the D tier. But moving on into the C tier, we have two heroes, the first one being Lady Geist. She has gotten buffed this patch, and she is, in my opinion, not that good still. I see that there's some potential, especially with spamming your abilities and just dealing damage, but she doesn't really have any movement herself. The only real self-peel and survivability she does have is her, well, Siphon Life, and of course, the ultimate being able to turn a diving tank onto its head. But it's very easy to counter her just by standing farther away, or if you silence her, or really just about anything, and I've never really understood the hype, so I'm gonna trust my gut on this when I say that Lady Geist belongs in the C tier. Another hero in the C tier that I want to be higher up, but sadly just cannot be reliable, is going to be Bebop. The value from his hook and his double bomb build and whatever can be really good. It shouldn't be understated. It's sort of like a Paradox ultimate, but you know, without the cost of putting a Paradox in the middle of the enemy team. But overall, he kind of relies on his hook. If you don't hit the hooks, or if the enemies are just good enough at dodging them, because at a certain point, you're not going to get hooks because they're waiting for them, Bebop really starts losing value. He can be good to flank and get an early game lead, but I believe that as the game progresses, he kind of loses value unless he keeps hitting hooks, and he's very easy to itemize against. The enemy team could be buying rescue beams or ethereal shifts, or really about anything that stops Bebop from getting his maximum value. Also, I'm the only person noticing this, but for some reason, bombs are not attaching like they should, and I don't know if it's a bug or some setting, but they're not working for me. Anyways, so again, Lady Geist and Bebop going to the C tier. But moving on into the B tier, we have a few heroes here, starting off with Viscous. There has been some pretty big puddle punch nerfs, and of course the cube now only cleanses when you get into tier 2. It's not an automatic thing anymore, which means that Viscous is a lot less oppressive in lane, as he is more outplayable. You can dodge the puddle punches a lot more easily. He is still pretty solid, which is why he's in the B tier, but not nearly as much of a menace as he used to be previously. After that, we have Haze, who saw a massive nerf, both directly and indirectly, this last patch. As you might know, she's very snowbally. She needs a good build. She needs a lot of money to really start getting the ball rolling, and if she's underfed, if she's in winning her lane or just going even in her lane, she won't be ahead enough where she can carry her team. There's some potential there, but the higher you go into the elo, I feel like the less valuable she really is. As of this patch, she cannot ult for Paradox Wall, and there's tons of other small ult nerfs that just make it less oppressive overall. It's less efficient and much more easy to counter in this patch. As for Pocket, they can be pretty oppressive when snowballing with a very high skill ceiling, but they are very feast or famine, too inconsistent. You need to really get really far ahead where your burst is enough to kill the enemy squishy. If you don't deal enough damage, all you can do is pop an affliction and run away and not really do anything, then stall out a fight. It can be valuable, but most of the time it really isn't. As for Paradox, she gets 3 kills with her ult, she gets 3 kills with her roams, with her third ability, but her ultimate is risky to use if she uses it the wrong way. She just teleports herself into the enemy team and dies, so you need to buy the right items for her. Again, her ult is like Bebop's hook, but at the same time, her carbine gives her a lot of value to her team. Her shield is a lot stronger now because it actually counters haste directly, and overall her kit provides more utility than Bebop that's just revolving around his hook. And then finally, to close out the B tier, we have Warden. I want to say that I haven't figured it out, but for some reason it feels like Warden somehow got power crept. The new heroes that we'll cover later in the video are so much better, with better utility, with probably better damage output, or at the very least consistent damage in a fight. So the only thing Warden has going for him is the all-in with all the items and his second ability, so he can rush up to you and of course snaring someone. But if they just cleanse themselves or get out of the way, it's not gonna end up doing much. The ult is super easy to dodge because of the charge up, even if you do it preemptively. The potential is there, but it's just not hitting this patch. But anyways, that puts Viscous, Haze, Pocket, Paradox, and Warden in the B tier. Moving on into the A tier, we're gonna start off with Shiv. I still think he's pretty solid this patch, but the changes to the Rage makes him way less oppressive to play against in lane and even in the mid to late game. And as you might know, Shiv really shines in that mid to late game phase between, you know, I don't know, 5 to 25 minutes with a huge power spike on his ultimate. But once the enemies start really getting their items going, he will just lose more and more power. I used to have him in the S tier because of how strong he was, but he has fallen off a little bit from grace as of this last patch. Another hero in the A tier is of course Vindicta. She's very snowbally. She has slightly less power in the latest patch. She's less oppressive in this latest patch. Still very good. You can still get a snowball going and try to turn it into an early win. But I feel like overall, she just does not have the same presence on the map or even in the lane that she did previously. As for Mo and Krill, they received a lot of nerfs this last patch, but they're still crazy good. I'd say they probably shifted the value around a little bit and added a little bit more value to the blinding ability, but they still remain a power pick in the sense that they have a crazy lane clear and jungle clear and being able to just cross the entire map and have a lot of map presence. And the way that they can lock down enemy players, both with their burrow coming out of burrow as well as their ultimate, makes them extremely strong in all stages of the game. Obviously, sometimes at the cost of your own life, but overall, it's worth it, which is why I think they are in A tier. Another hero for A tier is of course Lash. Lash is just overall really good. A perfect choice if you want to get picks on the back line or to lock down the front line. He's also extremely good if you just want to do a big ultimate on an enemy team, as you can pull them out of spawn, pull them into spawn, really do whatever you want. There's a lot of outplayability thanks to all of the CC in his kit, as well as his damage, especially if you're building Spirit Lash, and he is ahead. Moving on, we have Great Talon, who received some slight buffs this patch. He can be very oppressive when played in the right way, with a lot more value this patch, especially leaning towards his gun or weapon builds, thanks to his second ability now being able to be activated as you stay close to the ground, which gives you the scatter headshot while still staying close to your enemy. Overall, Great Talon is just solid, which is again why I put him in the A tier. Then as for Yamato, she is pretty solid still this patch. She's gotten bumped down from the S tier because, at least in my opinion, she doesn't really have that same value and strength that she used to have in the previous patch. I'm specifically talking about the gun build. A lot of Yamatos are now playing Spirit instead, which is still pretty strong, but as somebody who really enjoyed the gun build on Yamato, it's just not the same. It doesn't hit the same. You can still make things happen with her, especially if you can get ahead and farm yourself up, which is why I keep her in the A tier. And of course, closing out the A tier, we have Wraith. As with a lot of heroes in this tier, it takes a little while to get there with Wraith, but she has a really good farm to get there thanks to all her abilities that let her clear jungle farms and minions extremely fast, and she can also rotate between these different farms super fast to just clear the entire map up and really get a soul snowball going, which of course, in addition to, say, her ultimate, makes her incredibly oppressive when played in the right way. But again, that puts Shiv, Vindicta, Mo and Krill, Lash, Great Talon, Yamato, and Wraith in the A tier. And before we go into the S tier, I just want to do a quick shout out to the current Patreon subscribers. You guys have been absolutely awesome. I really love to see all the support coming in as we've been playing more Deadlock and covering it. So as usual, huge thank you to SC7639, Jorge Martinez, and of course Gabe for continuing to being Patreon subscribers. It really means the most. If you too want to join the Patreon, I mean, you want to see the videos as they're cooking with early access to scripts, or if you want to see my live tier list, which I update as I continue playing the game, in addition to ad-free versions of these videos, and of course these shoutouts. If you guys want to support the Patreon, all you have to do is check it out at patreon.com/Ottr. But without further ado, thank you for listening. Let's head into the S tier. Starting off, we have Abrams. I still think Abrams is extremely good this patch. He's just a good all-rounder, deals a ton of damage in every single way, no matter how you build him, and he just doesn't die. He probably has the best survivability, damage, maybe even burst and team utility in the game, or at the very least, he is the best all-rounder, in the close range. The next hero in the S tier is going to be Ivy. She has insane utility with her ult. She can pick herself up and fly away. That's her split push. She can pick up the urn and take it to the other side. She can pick up a teammate with the urn, or just pick up a teammate and escape or engage with her ultimate. There's just so much room for creativity here. She also has very good fight potential thanks to her gun or her stun. And as of this patch, we've discovered just how overpowered Spirit Ivy is, which is a kudzu bomb Ivy that just deals a ton of damage thanks to the kudzu bomb having a massive reach and a much stronger spirit scaling. And by using a refresher, she just stays in the air permanently, which makes her impossible to kill and just lets her deal so much damage. So she is probably maybe even S+ tier in this very patch. But moving on, we have Kelvin. Gun Kelvin did get nerfed this patch, but he's still a great support. Yes, he cannot block off enemy turrets still, but just the overall utility that he provides is definitely nothing to scoff at, with the slows and the heals, and of course being able to rotate really quickly with his ice path, and of course locking enemies into his bubble so he and his teammates can kill them for free. Another hero in the S tier is going to be Dynamo, who has insane utility in every way. He is probably the best support in the game now because of the value from his first ability, which gives a knockup and does a ton of damage depending on how we build him. The second ability is so good because it puts Dynamo and his teammates in a void and gets them out of there. I've been saved countless of times from Dynamos just teleporting us out into safety. His heal speeds him up, heals him and nearby teammates. It's super good. And of course, the ultimate is a game changer on its own, especially with a refresher. Sure, the ult range has been slightly nerfed, but overall, you're still going to see really good value from it. After Dynamo, I still want to do a good shout to Infernus, who has really good damage as usual, insane sustain. He was directly unchanged in the latest patch. You could argue that the item changes affected him, but overall, I wouldn't say that his particular meta builds saw that many massive changes. He's just a solid dude who deals a lot of damage with his whole kit, a lot of utility with his whole kit, and can stay alive for so long thanks to fire, lifesteal, and spirit damage. And of course, his ultimate can be a fight winner if used in the right way. I still haven't gotten around to do my meteor shower Infernus, but it's going to be so fun when we get it working. More on that later. Another hero in the S tier will of course be 7, who remains very strong this patch. I know there's been a few changes to Unstoppable, which means you can't use it reactively with his ultimate anymore, so there's less counterplay against stuns, but Gun 7 is as strong as ever, and he works just as well. He has a very fast jungle clear, and I think as with a lot of heroes, especially the mid to late game ones, I think having a good jungle clear is the name of the game, so you can actually get ahead and start dealing the damage that you need. You can get those power spikes that you're looking for. And again, 7, just like with Wraith and Monkrell, have really fast jungle clears that let them get ahead really fast. But anyways, closing out the S tier, we have the new hero this patch, or rather like 2 patches ago, because he's gotten nerfed 2 times since he was released, and he's still super good when played the right way. And there's so much untapped potential. His whole kit overtuned as hell, in my opinion, despite the nerfs. We're just gonna judge him as he is now rather than a few days ago. His first ability is so good. It makes him invulnerable, so he gets out of basically any situation. It snares and levitates enemies, which shows them into easy targets. They can't really do much about it if they get hit by it. And it provides so much utility in a solo lane, as well as mid and late game, that you should be winning almost every single 1v1 if you play Mirage. Especially when we look at the rest of his kit, for example, his second ability, which steals health as you hit enemies with it. It steals health from almost the entire enemy team, depending on how you build it, which softens their max health up while making you even tankier and harder to kill. His third ability makes him an impossible menace to play in the early game. Laning against Mirage is a nightmare. Even if he never uses the rest of his kit, just having to deal with the fact that he automatically builds the stacks on his third ability on you makes him so oppressive to deal with. Even if you sit under turret, he can just keep hitting you with his primary fire, which gives him stacks and lets him deal a ton of damage, and you can even really shoot him back. The third ability scales really well into mid and especially late game as well, so it's not like he gets outscaled. If anything, he gets better the more items you get, and eventually you just start one-shotting people left, right, and center. Not to mention his ultimate, which lets him teleport to any lane that he wants, to any teammates or even enemy that he wants, if he wants to chase him, if he wants to survive, which means that he's very good at split pushing or providing pressure or farming around the map, where let's say your entire team is starting to group up, you can still be all over the map, you know, pushing up lanes, taking jungles, taking walkers or guardians or other objectives, and then still be present once the fight starts. There's no other hero that has that presence on the game, that also is that good in the early game, that also is that good in the mid game, in the late game, and just keeps scaling and getting better. There's nobody who does it like Mirage. I want to say that despite the nerfs, he might be the best hero in the game at the moment. Don't mind me in the gameplay. I'm still working him out. It takes a while to get used to his kit, but the potential is definitely there. I've been trying a little bit of gun Mirage lately, and he hits a lot harder than I thought he would. But Spirit Mirage is really good as well, as you can get over 1600 in a full stack if you build him full Spirit. So closing out the S tier, we got Abrams, Ivy, Calvin, Dynamo, Infernus, 7, and Mirage. But yeah, that just covers it all. I want to thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit looser in the presentation here, but I hope it still made a lot of sense. It's very important to me that you guys have something nice to look at when we make these tier list videos. So I really want to keep trying to have background footage of every hero, not to mention that by playing all of these heroes for these tier list videos, I can stay in the know and have more of an insight. So hopefully you guys enjoy this format a lot, and we can continue making it for future tier list videos. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe for the next one. Check out the Patreon, and see you all next time.